Good morning, Keith Tebow at FRC Media. Thank you for joining us. We touch upon a lot of government issues here at FRC Media through our FRC Media news program. We talk to a lot of local elected officials, state, even national officials with our connections every now and then with Congressman Auchincloss. We spend very little time, except during election years here in the state, on county government. Bristol County does have a county government. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today by one of the 3 Bristol County Commissioners. Many of you may know him as a former mayor of the city of Fall River, current county commissioner, John Mithcell. John, thank you for joining me.
Good to see you, Keith.
So
no precinct results tonight?
No, we may remember John from our election coverage. No election coverage tonight. So let me ask you, you've been a commissioner for how long?
11 years.
11 years.
It's been good. 12 years, actually.
And it's an elected position.
It's elected every 4 years.
So, and every 2 years, there's a commissioner up. So there's basically 3 commissioners, and every,
In Bristol on the presidential election, which is this year, it's 2 of us. This year it's me and Paul Kitchen. The off year, it's 1 commissioner.
1 commissioner.
So,
and how are commissioners, I mean, they're voted upon by the residents of Bristol County, but from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, there appears to be like some regional representation, like New Bedford traditionally has one, Fall River has one. I mean, is that still the case?
it's usually done. The only restriction that I understand is you can't have 2 from one city or town. Okay. You can only have 1 from any city or town. Typically, and when I first got on, you had Maria Lopes from Taunton, myself, and then Paul Kitchen was in Fairhaven. When Maria stepped down, John Saunders from New Bedford won. So right now, that end of the county has, someone from Fairhaven and someone from New Bedford.
Right.
And I'm from the Fall River area. But again, it's like any office, if someone calls, you're going to respond to them. A lot of our work, I mean, the county seat is Taunton. Right. We meet almost always in Taunton as the commission every 2 weeks. Occasionally we'll move it, New Bedford. Sometimes we go to the Aggie school. And the other thing is the school, which is roughly half our budget, is also in Taunton, Dighton.
Dighton nearby.
So the northern end of the district does have a lot of representation in that sense, and we're very conscious of it.
Yeah, I do want to get into Bristol Aggie specifically and how the role it serves in the county, but in terms of the government operation, the 3 commissioners are, if I can relate it to maybe some of our towns, they're like the Board of Selectmen in some ways, right? They oversee the executive office, executive branch of county government.
It did. It took some getting used to after being mayor, that you couldn't just say, here's what I want. Not that you always very rarely got what you wanted, but you weren't making unilateral decisions. And again, the 3 of us, we get along well. There's not a lot of heavy controversial decisions with what we do, but there are some. There's spending decisions, there's hiring with the school. There's a lot of decision, contract negotiations, curriculum, things like that. So it is a question of, the 3 of you got to work in unison, which I think the 3 of us have done very successfully and improved a lot on county and the school functions over time.
So what are the functions of county government that, the commission oversees, and what are those departments? People may know some of them. So what are they?
Generally, what we oversee is the county buildings, which are essentially courthouses, in New Bedford, Taunton, Attleboro, and in Fall River, the Registry of Deeds. There's no other courthouse. The old district has been sold off, and Recreation, Fall River Recreation is in there. And then the southern half of the Registry building, the big granite building on Main Street, is the Children's Museum. We lease to them, and that's worked out tremendously. They've been there a little over 10 years, and it's worked out very well. And it's good for us because you don't want that large a portion of a building sitting unoccupied. And I think it's been a good public use. So we have all those buildings, and then we have the school, which is a big part. It's, as I said, roughly half our budget, a disproportionate number of our employees. And then we have other functions, some regional things we do, some support for other groups, community groups we give financially and otherwise. And right now we are administering $110 million in ARPA money, the federal money, because of COVID. And that's gone very well. So we're managing that. which was a big step for us because our budget is 30 million and we're managing something that's almost 4 times our budget.
So John, you talked about how the county commission oversees the buildings, the courthouses, but there's no oversight of the operation at all of those courthouses, correct? The district courts?
No,
the
we
various
don't
courts?
like assign judges or anything like that. We do have a contract with the Mass Trial Court, which is a state agency, and it works very well. I mean, they pay a rent in the sense they pay operating costs, and it's percentage, like New Bedford District Court, New Bedford Superior is 100%. Some others are a little bit less a percent, depending on how much of the building they use. But it's worked very good, and recently, particularly with the state budget being a little flusher the last few years, they've done more capital work. And with ARPA money, we're looking to do a lot of capital work, which actually a lot of it's out to bid right now.
Yeah. Another thing that is overseen by the commissioners, which is sort of a little different, is that there is an elected county treasurer that oversees the budget and also the Register of Deeds. And I believe there are 3 Register of Deeds.
There are. They only counted with 3, but we have 3.
But your board kind of oversees, approves their budget, approves hires. That's sort of a little different in some ways.
Yeah, it was another adaptation after having been mayor and on a city council, because the 3 of us have to agree on a lot of things, but also there's limits. They're all elected officials, so they're not department heads, and you've got to treat them with the respect of an elected official. So for instance, we do approve their hires, we do approve their budget, we oversee their budget, but you know, when questions come up of employment, maybe where someone's assigned, how they work, job descriptions, discipline, problems in the workplace, we don't interfere with that. That's left to the treasurer or the register. They oversee, even though we approve the employees, and even though we have, in a way, the final say on whether or not someone's hired or fired. Certainly in the time I've been on, if they hire or fire someone, which isn't frequent, but employee problems, they're handled by the treasurer or whatever register. There's one in Taunton, Fall River, New Bedford, so they handle their own employment issues.
As in other forms of government, be it state or city, does the county have its own like HR department, have its own like IT? Or is that handled within the commission, and like does the treasurer have to deal with his own HR and IT issues and the registers as well?
No, we're very minimally staffed. I mean, the whole county commission office is the 3 of us and 3 people. We have an administrator, Maria Gomes, from Taunton. We have a young man who does enrollment, employee benefit type of issues.
Right.
And we have an assistant, you know, who does typing and computer entry and does all around staff work. And that's it. I mean, other counties have a lot more staff, but that's what we have. And then the treasurer has a little bit bigger office because they do payroll. We're now doing bonding with the school building. And then each register has their own staff too. So no, the county itself doesn't have a very big staff. There's 6 of us altogether.
Yeah. I want to get specifically to Bristol Aggie. Bristol County Agricultural School, the official title of the school. That's been in county hands for a long, long time. I guess talk a little bit. Yeah, talk a little about the history that people may not know about.
Yeah, it's one of, well, 2 public agriculture. There's actually 3 agricultural schools in the state. One is Smith. I think it's the same family that created Smith College. They have a school in Northampton. But it's us in Norfolk Aggie right now. There used to be Essex, but that became a Voc Tech, and there's a little bit of agriculture left. But we're one of the 2 schools, and it's a unique, I mean, I know I heard somewhere where, in one of the magazines I was reading, where the school got promoted, only Mass has agricultural high schools, which surprised me, but I think in the Midwest, well, I think it's part of probably a comprehensive school in that, so it's a little different. But it's going great. We just finished a $110 million expansion, and it consisted of 4 new buildings, renovating 3 others, and tearing down a couple. And if you get a chance, drive by. It's a beautiful, a lot of the work was done on the north end of the campus, which wasn't as developed, and what was there was, for instance, our animal science program, small animals, it was in a former chicken coop, and it wasn't really, not heated well. Now they've got a whole new big, beautiful building, and it was done with the school state building authority, who subsidizes, depending on how you calculate it, but somewhere around 55% when all is said and done. And it worked out well because we borrowed at the right time. Our building costs ran probably in the high 300 a square foot. Right now, for like Diamond and Bristol, Plymouth, they're almost at 700 a square foot. So we got in at a good time, and we got out at a better time. So it went pretty well.
Now, how many students are at the school, and how many, say, from like Fall River?
Right now, this year is the 4th year of the expansion. So this will be the first class to go through the 4 years in the new facilities. So we'll be at roughly 650 to 660. Now that number, like all school, varies. We usually accept now 170 to 175. It was about 125. So we're taking roughly 45 to 50 more students. But there's an attrition. You lose anywhere from 10 to 30 students. It's hard in a Voc Aggie school to take transfers. We'll take them through sophomore year, but junior, senior year, they're just too far behind in their major. So you don't, unless they came from Norfolk Aggie or another school, maybe a Voc school. We have agricultural mechanics. If they were in auto, we might take them in a junior or senior year. So yeah, it's about 650. We generally have 60 to 80 from Fall River. It varies year to year on the number of applicants and the acceptance rate, who gets in, and that. So.
And it's only open, obviously, to the cities and towns in Bristol County?
No, we have out-of-county students, In fact, it's interesting because Norfolk County, I think they're like 70% out-of-county, including like areas where you think we might get students from Brockton and even somewhat east. We get a lot of students from what I call, the Cranberry area. We get a lot from Lakeville, Middleborough, the old Rochester, Mattapoisett region. So yeah, we do probably about 20% out-of-county students. So, and that's just been traditional because of the proximity, and it's a farming area, but in particular, there's a lot of cranberry farms and families. Some of them are in their 3rd generation coming here. So,
so there's a big alumni group, right, throughout the years over there?
Yeah, no, it was founded in 1912 by special legislation. We celebrated our 100th and now our 110th. And it's a great location. They really grabbed some prime land. It's interesting, one of the buildings on the property is the Standish House, and it goes back to the 1700s. It's one of the descendants of Miles Standish, who settled in Dighton, Taunton area. And the house, it's been upgraded substantially, but that was actually where at one point the superintendent director lived on campus, and part of their employment contract was they lived at that property. And it was required back then because you needed someone 24 hours. When they changed the retirement rules in 2009, we now use that as an administrative office. So, but we still have employees there 24 hours because you've got animals. Although we don't have to milk cows anymore.
How is the school funded? Is it funded by state funds, and are there assessments to the cities and towns? How does that work?
Every community in Bristol pays a county tax. It varies by tax base, which is pretty much community size. New Bedford, Fall River pay the most. Attleboro, Taunton, Dartmouth, and then so on down the line. And that's set, and it increases 2.5% per year. That's a good portion of our budget. With the school, we do get Chapter 70 money like every other school in the Commonwealth, and we also get transportation money. And then the registries, we do get some money from there. That's been a point of contention with the legislature. We get a percent of the registry stamps when you buy your house, and they tell you got to pay $2,000 on a stamp. We get some portion of that. It's small and it's decreased over the years. And then we get a portion of each recording fee. So
that goes right to the general county coffers, not necessarily to the
It goes to the registry in part. Each registry has their own what they call deed excise account, and then we have a deed excise account. And in good years, it's great. Before the big bubble bust in 2008, the county actually returned money to the cities and towns. We had a couple good years, not quite that good, oddly enough, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But now it's the receipts are well down, so it's a little tighter for us.
Right. Let me ask you again about specifics about the school. What types of courses are offered? What that may be of interest to some of our viewers who may not have known.
It's an incredible school. I mean, I knew it really from high school, and then when I was mayor, there's a county advisory board,
Right.
One elected official from each town. So I used to go up occasionally as mayor for the advisory board meeting. But I knew it, and back then it was all male, and they still had dormitories. They didn't have a lot of boarders, but from Attleboro out of the county, they had boarders. It's an unbelievable school. They have a variety of majors. They have animal science, large and small, floriculture, arbor, landscape, ag mechanic, and now we've added an environmental science. Well, we've had natural resources, but they're kind of hand in hand. And we now have a full veterinary facility. We have a surgery center in the veterinary facility, and we've just hired our own veterinarian for the first time. So those are the majors, and it's not like people familiar with Diamond and I think New Bedford-Vogue. It's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Right.
Ours are incorporated daily.
Right within.
So every student does a little academic in the day. They'll go back and forth to their major maybe 2 or 3 times during the day. And what struck me when I first went there was the maturity of the students. Each year we have a foundation there, and each year we have a fundraiser in September. And the biggest compliment we get about it is the 25 to 30 students who volunteer to work it, and they wait on tables, they collect tickets, they do the raffle, and the comments are always they handle themselves so well. And I think it's from, they move building to building. It's not like most high schools, you're in one building,
Right.
you walk down the corridor. They're responsible to get across campus.
It's a campus.
They gotta
It is a
move.
campus.
It's a college campus.
Right.
It's, not as big as BCC, but it's multiple buildings, and you've got to get to each building on time. And a lot of it is, I just think, in voc ed, you're not being lectured at, and you're dealing with your teacher in a different way.
Yeah.
And they're just they work very well with adults. And, it's I think, a big part of education where you're learning that there's not a lot of mystery or not a lot of subservience to adults. That they're not difficult. In fact, it's amazing how little trouble there is up there. In that. But,
You mentioned the advisory board, which each city and town has a representative. What's their role?
Their role is to oversee. They usually only meet once a year, sometime twice, but they have to approve the budget.
Oh, okay.
And then they have to approve certain things within it. Union contracts, they technically have to approve them. So the advisory board is made up of it has to be an elected official from each town. So Fall River, and the other 3 cities, it's the mayor or designee. A lot of them will send the city councilor. Mayor Mithcell generally did that, but Mayor Coogan has attended quite a bit. And then the towns, it's one selectman. So they get together, it's a weighted vote. So a lot of times, before remote meetings, we had a lot of trouble getting a quorum, and you really had to get a couple of the cities. But with remote, it hasn't been that problem, but it's weighted based on the county tax. And so each community has a vote. And they generally oversee we typically meet for the budget. With the school building, we met more often, maybe 2 or 3 times a year sometime, because we wanted to present to them what the assessment would be, what the building was going to be. We need approval for bonding and things like that. So we did meet a little bit more, but it's generally one meeting once a year. Try to do it before the end of the fiscal year on June 30th, but often it takes place in the summer.
There any input in their regard in terms of operations or questions about the school, or is it just?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get questions at the meeting, but no, we don't get a lot of inquiries or suggestions. We've had suggestions on, how to present the budget, how it should be done, which have been helpful. And again, they're all officials who are doing their own budget. Some of them are just more tech savvy, and they've developed certain programs or apps that help with the budget and that. So their input's helpful, and then, occasionally it's been contentious. Sometimes there's questions, why is the contract, what's the raise for, why is it that much, and that. But it really hasn't been. I mean, we work out that, but it's never been a real contentious meeting or anything like that.
You mentioned that the county invests not only in the school and the buildings, the courthouses and the like, but into some community endeavors. Explain some of those. What is any in Fall River?
We grant some money to the Child's Advocacy Center. That's been going on since before I got there. The Fire Chiefs Association, we help them out. We do offer some regional help with certain things. We'd like to do more of that, and we're hoping the biggest regional thing right now is the APA money. The federal money from COVID, which has been, it's an interesting history. I mean, our budget is $30 million. We received 110, and before APA, there was the CARES money that came in, and we turned it down. The only counties left in Massachusetts are Norfolk, Plymouth, Barnstable, Bristol, and the islands. So there's not many counties, and when the CARES money came in, then Governor Baker made it very clear he wanted it to go to the state, and it could go to the state. APA money couldn't go quite as easily. And for all his reputation as being laid back and calm, Governor Baker, like anyone, can be forceful.
Sure.
Plymouth held out. We were going to turn it over anyways. We weren't interested in running that particular program. But Plymouth held out, ran it, and did a great job. And they did it in a way I'll explain. So when the APA money came down, the counties, and again, there wasn't the same incentive for the state to take it this time as there was with CARES. So all the counties, I just mentioned, decided to hold on to the CARES money, the APA money, and administer it. So we had $110 million, and what each county did, we each hired the same accounting firm. So when you apply for any APA money from the county, and each community got money directly from APA, like Fall River got about $67 million, and then they got about another $30 million through the county. So what we did is we set up a series of portals where you have to go through your local community. So if you're a nonprofit in Taunton, you've got to go through the city of Taunton, be approved by them, then they submit it to the county. Then we have one accounting firm review it, another reviews that, the treasurer's office reviews it, and then at the end of it, it's the commission votes on it. And it's gone very well. It really has worked well. We've got almost, all the money's not out, but we've got applications for almost over 90%, I'd say now, by the latest numbers. We had 110 million, and I think right now it's somewhere around 102 that's been applied for. All won't qualify, and some will be sent back, but and it's worked well. Some interesting projects that
probably projects that you may not even known existed, I'm sure.
Well, I know, like North Attleboro, they had a school that they wanted to renovate, and they weren't sure what to do with it. So under APA, I think they used most of them, like almost all their money, somewhere around $5 million, to renovate the school and use it as a food center for food pantries in that area. And meantime, the town fixed up a building they wanted to get back in repair and keep using, and they also served the wider public purpose for the not only North Attleboro but that whole area where food pantries can store their food there. There were freezers; they can keep it chilled there or frozen there, and then distribute it from there. So that was a lot of doing water and sewer because that qualifies and pretty easily. That was really pushed by the federal government. So you see a lot of that. But, places have used it for park improvements. That's on the idea that you got to breathe clean air to avoid COVID. So, but there's a lot of uses. So it's been administered well. It really worked out. And a lot of credit to Plymouth, who took a lot of abuse from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in doing their CARE program. And they learned from that, and it's helped the other counties administer this.
Something else that I believe the county oversees or administers is employee retirement system, Bristol County
Correct.
retirement system.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's a group, I don't know, the representative on it from the commission is John Saunders from New Bedford, and before that it was Commissioner Kitchen, when he became chairman, stepped down from that. So, but it's 8 or 10 communities. It's done very well on investments. So Somerset and other communities also have their retirees in the system, as well as Bristol County and the school. And you know, it's a recognized retirement system by the state, just like Fall River and New Bedford, which have a bigger number of employees, have their own retirement systems. Bristol County represents, like I said, I want to say it's about a dozen or so communities and districts. There's some water districts and things like that in that. And the money's pooled and it's turned into invested. And like I said, they've done pretty well on the investments. We do have a plan where we'll be paying, like all public retirement systems, there's an unfunded liability, which I think we had originally hoped to pay off by 28 or so, but COVID kind of interfered. So we're now, I think, into the 30 or the early 30s, but we've done a good job handling the unfunded liability.
As we wrap up, I want to ask you one final question in terms of the future of county government. In most states across the country, county government is huge, right? In the South, a lot of the communities fall under county government. There's county government seems to be an overseer sometimes in some municipalities. There's been a call for many years to abolish county government here in Massachusetts. You said not all counties have county governments any longer. Do you still see a usefulness here in Bristol County to continue to have county government the way it is now?
I do, for a number of reasons. One, what happened was in the late 90s, there was real financial problems with counties, notably Middlesex, which is by far the biggest county in the Commonwealth, and the state had to step in to rescue them. The ones I mentioned, Plymouth, Norfolk, Oz, Barnstable, were still operating reasonably well. The fiscally was sound, so they were allowed to stay as counties. The importance, I think, especially for an area this far from Boston, is it is a local government. You know, we do employ local people. We do, I think, most importantly, administer the school on our own. You take it away, it's not going to be run locally. It'll be run, the governor on the board of the trustees, the school board of the agricultural school, there's 7 members, 3 commissioners, and 4 appointed by the governor. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure to keep it in Bristol. Will it stay that? Where will the employees come from? So it is another form of local government, and there's really been more of a push on regionalization with county government. But again, that tends to come up when things get tighter and towns have problems, because the cities, I think, will always function pretty much on their own. But a lot of the more technical, scientific, conservation commissions, water quality, I think in the future there will be some regionalization. But again, it's Massachusetts, the home of the town meeting, and no one's going to give that up.
Let me just ask you, but one thing I failed to ask you earlier is that it's only been recently that there has been a disassociation. That's the sheriff's department, right?
Correct, yeah. They were part of the county until just, I think, 2008, 2009. And then this sheriff, I think it was one of the last counties where, because of budget problems and funding, it was brought over to the state, and it is now a Commonwealth agency.
Yeah.
So,
John Mithcell, thank you for your
time.
It
was interesting.
And giving an update. I mean, a lot of people still may not know that we have county government and what it's about, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good to see you, Keith.
All right.
Thank you.
Same here. Thank you for joining us here on FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great day.